if you want to support the show, any of the shows, either this or whichever show, I'm not on right now because it's just a blanket ad for all of them, and the website, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com. In the description for any of the episodes of Beware of Spoilers, there is the option to donate. If you don't want to donate that way, you can donate directly through the website. We do have that, mwpnews.com. And if you don't want to support that way, then going to mwpnews.com will help out because we have ads there. We don't want to keep it, where there's a lot of ads. There's a few ads. But the point is we want to make it so that way, we can sustain this for the long term. If people donate, we're never going to paywall anything, I don't think, as of right now. But if people, start donating, we'll start doing cooler and cooler stuff. Like donations are how we get to cover stuff like Tribeca and other, film festivals. And, we may be able to bring on more people to help out. So if you want to help out the show and you want more content from us, by all means, even just going and giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify helps out a lot. But that's it. That's the only ad we'll have on the podcast ever. But here's whatever podcast you're going to be listening to. Recording? Okay, good. Good evening, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. We're back. It's been a little bit. I've been sick lately, but I'm finally on an antibiotic regimen, so I am on the mend. And I've gone to my first movie in a bit as a result of that. And the movie I saw today was Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, which I think I said this the other day when I talked about Beetlejuice singular from 1988. I think I've seen that movie at some point. I didn't remember a good amount of it, but I'm fairly certain I had seen it at some point. But whatever, that's not it. I enjoyed that movie, and it was one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm interested now to see where they kind of go in a sequel. And I think I liked a good amount of it, and I think a good amount of it that I liked kind of comes from letting Michael Keaton do what Michael Keaton does well in this movie, which is a good amount of it is clearly improvised. And when you're letting him be a great comedic actor, and he's a great comedic actor, we now associate him with more dramatic roles, but he does the comedic stuff really great too, and that's where he got his start. And he never really gave up on that, but it did kind of Batman change things. So I think my issue is when I watch this movie. I think my issue is there's too much going on. Like, when me and Peter talked about it a few months ago, we talked about it briefly. I was kind of like, again, not really knowing where they would go with this, I was kind of like, well, what could this movie be? And anytime you get these legacy sequels, they always feel kind of weird. But he talked about how he was concerned they were going to over-explain the afterlife. And I think, luckily, they don't do that. They over-explain Beetlejuice, though. And they over-explain him in a way that's contradicted in the movie, and it kind of doesn't add anything. In fact, I would argue you can cut the entirety of Monica Bellucci's character from this movie and everything that goes along with it, and the movie's probably better off for it. And I think, too, I don't know why you would go with Monica Bellucci and not the usual mainstay for, Tim Burton in recent years, Helena Bonham Carter. But either way, it's like, the point I'm trying to make is, like, that whole thing changes the world of this movie fundamentally in a way that they never really address. And they never really give a good reason as to why they're making this deep and fundamental change to how things work in the world of Beetlejuice. Because what her character is she's the lead of a soul-sucking cult that is trying to become immortal during the Black Plague. And he, like that whole thing is so kind of weird and out there. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna tie her, like, this is, like, the entire thing is, that finger that he had, that he pulls the ring off of in the first one, and he as he goes to put it on Lydia, he's like, I promise she meant nothing to me. Like, that's what that was. Like that's the first wife. And it's like, okay, I see I see what you're doing. I get that, like, this is a logical progression, but, like, my issue with this is there are a few things in this movie that work kind of equally well as the plot of the movie, and none of them are that, and all of them would get us from point A to point B a lot cleaner. Like, I think if the A plot of the movie was, the death of the grandfather, bringing everyone back to the town, and Lydia... I mean, look, it's just... the other weird thing is that the whole thing... Not Lydia, I forgot her character's name. Jenna Ortega. Her character falling in love with this boy who turns out to be a teenager who's a ghost because he died and murdered his family. He murdered his family and then died. Like, that would be interest. Like, that alone. And then him tricking her into giving up her life. It's very similar to Ghostbusters Afterlife, the whole, homoerotic relationship between, Phoebe and the ghost girl, whose name I'm forgetting, who, like, that whole thing is basically the relationship between these two in this movie. And the difference is, it's like, the ghost girl has a conscience about it and comes back to save the day, and isn't just the butt of the PG-13 F-bomb, because at the end of the day, this movie has to come back to, there's a wedding that's impending between Lydia and Beetlejuice that needs to be stopped. And I think that's kind of an interesting thing. The other interesting thing that they touch on, there's a sentence about it in the movie, and I'm like, fuck, why wasn't that the plot? That would have been a lot better. Is the plot of what happened to... I forgot their names. Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis. Like, she has a line in the movie where it's like, she's talking to Jenna Ortega, Lydia, and she says, yeah, we found a loophole in the book, and we got them to move on to the afterlife. And it's like, oh, that sounds like it would have been a cool movie, and that could have been this movie. Tie Beetlejuice in there somehow, and boom, you got it. Like, that feels like a lot stronger of a premise. This, I think, because of how much of the movie is kind of focused around... I keep wanting to say Miranda Baccarin, but it's not. It's Monica Bellucci. Her character, who doesn't do much of anything besides walk through the scenes and like, suck the soul out of people and then move on to the next thing. Aside from the... And it adds very little to the movie. Arguably, without that, that's what... The only reason that's in there is to propel, like, Beetlejuice to try to marry Lydia again, but I don't think you really need that, because before he knows that his wife is back, or his ex-wife is back, she appears, like, he's already pining, he has her picture on his desk. Like, he never gave that up. So him being the opportunist there, and I think that's the other thing that would have been interesting, where it's like, at the end of the movie, it's like, what's his name? He was on Parks and Rec. Justin Theroux plays her fiancé throughout the movie, and he's this opportunist who's taking advantage of her and the situation to marry her. And it's that wedding that Beetlejuice co-ops, like, okay, well, this is going to be the wedding of me and Lydia now. It would have been more interesting for him to be like, look, how am I any better than him? And especially when he goes into, his diatribe about why he is doing what he does, why he's doing what he does. Like, that whole thing would have been a lot more interesting, and I think they kind of pass up on that opportunity. I'm not entirely sure why. The practical effects work very well. I think the CGI obviously will work a lot better now than it did in 1988. And I think that this is something that I'm very much, I like. If not for the third act being as strong as it is, and it's kind of like from the minute Lydia signs the contract, or like the minute we get, and that's kind of the same thing with the first movie, but I think the first movie, everything leading up to it is way more interesting than everything leading up to it here, because ultimately, because the circumstances to get to Lydia agreeing to marry Beetlejuice and bring him back, like, that whole situation is way, it's way simpler in the first one. It's way too convoluted here, and there are way too many moving parts, and I don't think you really needed that. And it's I don't know, it feels like there's a lot of moving parts here that didn't need to be moving. It's kind of weird, for lack of a better word, and I know that that's gotten a very different sense lately, but like it doesn't really flow properly. At no point when I'm watching this movie do I feel like, sorry, I had class this morning and then work, and then now I saw the movie and I'm tired. So because I talked about it over on Exploring Hyperspace Lanes with Josie. I'm going to grad school now, but the point is, like, there is an interesting story here, and I think that's fundamentally what the first Beetlejuice movie is interesting, not just because Michael Keaton has this magnetic performance that you can attach yourself to, but because you care about everyone involved. You care about the two who are living in the attic whose names I'm forgetting. Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis. You care about them. You care about, what's going on with Lydia and her relationship with her parents. You care about her parents. And the other thing is, too, it's like, for a character you're killing off because you can't use the actor, I feel like they would have just been better off just not acknowledging, making it, like, an inciting incident being the father's death. The guy from Ferris Bueller's Day Off who was into some shit, which is why he's not in the movie. Like, this character has way too big a role in this movie that I'm like, why are we here? Like, and the thing is, too, it's like, and the same with Willem Dafoe. Like, Willem Dafoe has a great performance. I love what he does with this character of, he was a movie star who only played cop roles and was committed to doing his own stunts. And, he died doing one of his own stunts, and he's just stuck in character doing this in the afterlife now. It's a great little moment. It's just, I think that's, that is kind of what it, I needed him to be a little bit more, better involved in it. Like that's the thing, is that it's like, I get that, the whole movie resolves, and again, I know we're talking about spoilers, there's a lot of spoilers in this. The title of the podcast is Beware of Spoilers, and when I say beware of spoilers at the beginning, that's not just the name of the podcast, that is a warning, beware of spoilers, and it'll be in the title too, spoilers, because I know it's Wednesday and the movie officially comes out tomorrow, but when I look at this, where was I going with that? Oh, the whole ending of the movie resolves when it's like, because you can't bring a living person into the afterlife. If you bring a living person into the afterlife, that's against the rules. And the issue was, it comes about because, I forget her character's name again, Jenna Ortega is like, we need to, what's it called? We need, I have the guide for the recently deceased, which showed up earlier in the movie. There's a much better version of what is largely the same movie here. And there are a lot of comedic moments do land. There are quite a few comedic, Catherine O'Hara is a great comedic actress. He's playing kind of a scumbag, but, Justin Theroux is a great comedic actor. And the first line that got an audible laugh out of me was early in the movie when he's going to he is going with Lydia and Catherine O'Hara to grab Jenna Ortega from the school she's in, And he goes, like, I too had I had a death. I can relate to her. My grandfather died recently, and Catherine has like, oh, I'm sorry, and she's like, yeah, it was 40 years ago. That was the first thing that got an audible laugh out of me. And then the whole thing with the Soul Train is just, it's such a great visual and auditory gag for what it is, especially early on when Beetlejuice alludes to it and makes the obvious joke about it. And then you get there and it's like, oh no, it wasn't just the obvious joke. It's literally that. It's a great moment for the movie. The issue is I feel like the structure of this movie and everything that kind of builds to getting you to where you want to go, which is the inevitable, we need to figure out a way to entrap Beetlejuice again and get him away. That whole thing is not quite as interesting as, everything that leads up to that moment is not quite as interesting as it definitely thinks it is. And a lot of it is just kind of time wasting. It is when we reviewed Jurassic World, I think it was a commentary track we did years ago, me and Peter, and I said this a few times on 30-minute reviews, where it's at the end of the day, you're sitting through a lot of this, and I say this with Godzilla too, it's you're sitting through a lot of this movie to watch the monsters fight. And it's just make it vaguely engaging enough for me while I wait to see the monsters fight. That way I'm not sitting here bored out of my mind until the monsters fight. And I won't say I was bored out of my mind. It's not like I was all right, this is ridiculous, let's just move it along. But I will say I was not overly enthusiastic about the majority of this movie. And you just start sitting there all right, move it along. And then you get to the scene where it's oh, okay, she's signing the deal now. She's calling Beetlejuice to save her daughter. So it's okay, so we're just getting back to what the first movie's climax is. And it works. And there's a musical sequence in there that goes on way too long. I get it. I get why you have to do it, because it is probably the most famous scene from the first movie is that, and I totally get why you need to do something similar here. I think it just goes on way too long, to the point where you're I get why it's yeah, he thinks he's won so he can spend all this time doing this ridiculous fucking musical number, but to spend all this time doing it, it's kind of a little, weird, I guess. It's just kind of all right, can we slow this down? A lot of the decisions feel the movie clock's in at 1:45, 1:47, something like that. A lot of these feel we need to get it over an hour and a half, so I'll just add shit in to get us over an hour and a half. On our scale, which I think we need to rework, because I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5 because I think the visuals warrant it. I saw this in Dolby Cinema, and I can't think of a bigger slap in the face to Warner Brothers than their big tentpole movies having a very, very long intro about Deadpool and Wolverine before it. And by the way, that documentary, Superman, looks absolutely fantastic. I'm going to check that out now. It's going to be a Fathom event, but I'm going to check that out. But yeah, this is a 5 out of 5. I think the visuals do warrant seeing it in a theater. And I think that, no, you know what? I'll say it's a 4. Because I don't think you need to rush out and see it, because by and large, it's just a more convoluted version of the first one. And with the CGI being better. I think the practical effects look as good. But that's kind of where we are on this. This is a 4. Don't rush out to see it, but if you can see it in the theater, I would say it's definitely worth seeing in the theater, and not waiting for it to hit max. But we'll wrap up there for today. We will be doing Rings of Power. I mentioned this briefly on 30-minute reviews earlier this week. I encountered a technical glitch with the Amazon Prime app on my phone when I was trying to watch it, and Because usually what I do with shows that I'm not 100% enthusiastic about is I will watch them while I'm at work, and it just wouldn't work. The app would play the audio, but it wouldn't play the video. So once I get that figured out, we will be doing that. We'll probably be doing that later this week, early this weekend. This weekend, Peter will be joining in on Saturday for an episode where we talk about Alien Romulus. Because I am going to sack up and go to a movie theater to watch Alien Romulus. We'll be talking about that this weekend. What else have we got? I feel like there was more that I wanted to address. Allegedly, the 4:30 movie comes out next week. I don't see any screenings listed, and AMC isn't listing it yet. I'll check the other theater by me, but I don't see it listed at AMC. I will be trying to see that. That is something we're going to try to get in. But this month we do also have Joker at the end of the month, and I saw that trailer today. And every time I see that trailer, I'm like, God damn! Somehow this movie cost $10 million more than Dune Part 2. And what else is there this month? Is this month The Wild Robot? I believe so. Or is that might be this month. And I feel like there was one other large-ish movie that's coming out this month that is kind of a big deal. I can't remember what it is though, but it will be what's it called? Oh, motherfucker. But it will be this month. What was it? Wasn't there one other really big movie? Man, this is Agatha. The TV show Agatha and that other show, The Penguin, are both this month. So we'll be talking about those in a few weeks, and that'll be weekly coverage. I'm gonna start announcing it now on every episode, just so we don't have any issues when it comes out. Starting with Skeleton Crew and moving through any shows from then on that are Star Wars. We will be doing those no longer on this feed. That will be over on Exploring Hyperspace Lanes. Reason being, it's a Star Wars show. This is Star Wars content. They go together. It makes sense. Branding, all that good stuff. So get ready. That's going to be over there in December. But we'll be making copious announcements between now and then to make sure everyone knows. You can go to exploringhyperspacelanes.com. I believe that link still works. And we also have it, it's on the website, mwpnews.com. That is mwpnews.com. Link will be in the description. Oh boy, I feel like there's another movie that I'm forgetting this month, and I'm just forgetting what it is. I don't know. I mean, there are a few movies that I wanted to see that's supposed to come out this month that I haven't seen hide or hair of. It's weird. It's weird how kind of up in the air the release slate is this month and next month. It's not until November where I'm like, I have a concrete... I mean, I think we have, end of October, I'd have a definitive date for, Venom. But September, October, it's all kind of in flux as it's mostly independent releases. Considering my theater has started showing a lot more international content. Not international as in international Bollywood films. Which is good for them, but I've never covered them before, so I'm not gonna start just to do that, even though it might get more listeners. Who knows? We might. If I need something to do, we might do that. But we will wrap up there for today. Our next episode will be at some point, probably before Saturday, if not on Saturday, for Alien Romulus. If before that, it'll be for Rings of Power. If you're looking for thoughts on WandaVision, we'll be wrapping that up tomorrow over on 30-Minute Reviews, followed by a review of Multiverse of Madness next Thursday. And Exploring Hyperspace Lanes, the Backlog Files, we'll be continuing our Pokemon journey next week. Until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.